What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This? This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, then we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 and either build them or fix them depending on how they rank. Now today we finish up our talks on the Storm Sorcery Sorcerer, and we had a rocky start, but today we seek to fix it, and I'm looking forward to that. Before we jump into it though, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, also make sure to share the video with your friends, and of course click the bell so you're notified when new videos are uploaded. One of the best ways to support this channel, of course, is to become a member, and by clicking that join button down below, you can of course become a bronze, silver, or gold snapper. Bronze snappers, of course, are going to receive all of my build guides and build fixes. Just like for today's video, there will be a fix guide along with that for you to use at your table, whatever you want to do with that. Just a nice way of me being able to say thank you for all of your support for all of my members. And then of course, if you go up in tiers, you get some additional things. Silver snappers get these videos 24 hours early, as well as special shout outs. And you also have the gold snapper tier, which gives you access to an exclusive part of my Discord, as well as some other perks that are coming down the pipeline. So really fun stuff. And of course, thank you to all of you for watching. Let's jump into it. So yeah, back on Tuesday, which I'll put up in the iCard above, we talked about the Storm Sorcerer, and it just didn't quite fit the bill for what we wanted it to be. It's just a little underpowered, and a lot of the abilities here rely on things that we don't want or don't have, which is kind of an issue, right? We are looking at abilities that affect only thunder and lightning damage, which we don't get a lot of, and it gives us a lot of perks if we're hit with melee attacks, which we also don't want to be doing. So this is saying, hey, put yourself in a bad situation and do things that you can't really do that well. That's not helpful. It's just not helpful to us. And so I think in that regard, it ends up being to our detriment. So today I want to shift this and kind of flip it on its head. We're going to keep a little bit of it. We're going to turn a lot of it around. We're going to shift some things around. And I think that you all will really enjoy this. Again, if you would like a written out guide to this, then go ahead and become a member. But otherwise, again, there will be no editing, nothing on the screen, anything like that. So feel free to listen to it like a podcast, that kind of thing. That's how we normally do these videos. And then you can follow along with the build guide if you happen to pick one of those up. So let's jump into it. At first level, we are of course going to get a few things. Now before we got Wind Speaker and we got something else which is being killed off. But you know what we didn't get? An expanded spell list. That is what we did not get before, but we are getting one now. And I think that it is just so essential to this subclass. You know, when we did the Draconic Bloodline fix, which I'll put up in the iCard above, we didn't do one because honestly, I felt like with features, we were able to make it work. With this one, I don't think you can. I really don't think it's possible to make this workable without an expanded spell list. And even then, it's kind of tough because there aren't that many thunder and lightning spells that are really worth taking. So you've got to be really careful with what you do take here and what you do put on an expanded spell list. And so I try to be careful with it. And there are, of course, other options that I considered in this that could be swapped in and out. And again, let me know in the comments down below what you think about this. I always am very interested in your opinion. So basically this would work like the expanded spell lists that came from the likes of the Clockwork Soul or back with the Aberrant Mind Sorcerers. So you of course get access to a bunch of spells, and then you can actually swap those out when you gain sorcerer levels, and you can choose from, with this one, either evocation or transmutation. I think that this really lends itself to evocation, and we just talked about the lunar sorcery, which was a couple weeks ago, and that really restricted you away from things like evocation. So that means that for me to really establish a contrast, I want to go with evocation for something like this. This is more of a blaster type of thing, and I want to really lean into that. So evocation makes sense, and transmutation is also just an amazing spell list. So of course you can grab things off the Sorcerer, Warlock, or Wizard list as long as they are within those schools, which could lead to some pretty gnarly combinations, but I think it's important that we do it that way. For that expanded spell list, at first level, I'm gonna do 3 spells, 1 cantrip, and then of course 2 first levels. Shocking Grasp makes a lot of sense. You could do some other things there. There are a couple other options that I considered, but I think Shocking Grasp is good. Again, considering where we're at with the whole melee vibe, it fits. I would rather not be in melee, but if we do find ourselves in melee, Shocking Grasp is a nice get out of jail free card, but you'll see we're gonna add some other get out of jail free cards a little bit later, so it's fine. I would even consider having this basically with distant spell always active. That's something I would kind of consider as well, is Shocking Grasp, but always at a range of 30 feet. I think that could be really cool, just to save you that sorcery point, which is nice. I think that's great. But on top of that, for first level spells, Fog Cloud and Thunderwave make a lot of sense to me. I don't think there are a lot of other better options. There are a couple that could fit, but to me, those are the 2 best ones, at least thematically speaking. And then, you know, we'll gain some more as we go. Third level, Gust of Wind. I mean, is it the best spell? No. But thematically speaking, I don't think I can go without it. The second spell was a little bit tougher to narrow down, but I ended up going with Shatter. I think that makes the most sense because it fits in with the damage types that we're trying to target. So that's why we went with that one. I went with Call Lightning at level 5 because that way we're grabbing something from the Druid list, since we already have access to Lightning Bolt. So we can have both, which is good. And then Sleet Storm, which is a cold spell, which seems irrelevant, but we'll get to in a little bit. As 7th level, we are going to gain access to Summon Elemental, one of the new-ish spells, but only for air elementals, because it just makes a little bit more sense that way. I don't think being able to conjure a fire elemental makes a whole lot of sense with something like this, but there's not as much on that 4th level list that I'm as excited about. And so Summon Elemental with an air elemental makes a lot of sense. Plus, it goes with Wind Speaker, because we can now speak Primordial, which typically is seen in elementals. So that's really the reason there, and it fits in what was already there. And of course, Storm Sphere, because yeah, I mean, duh. Storm Sphere makes way too much sense here. And finally, 5th level spells at 9th level, Control Winds. Duh, we already got something similar to that, but this actually makes it legitimate. And then Destructive Wave from the Paladin list. Again, a really good damage dealing spell, which normally for Paladins would come online super late, but for us, we get it a lot earlier. And I think that's really good. Again, fitting in with our Thunder and Lightning theme. At first level, of course, we're also going to get a couple of features. Wind Speaker is going to go unchanged from what is written in the book. I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. It's a ribbon feature. You get an extra language, and again, we're leaning into it with the Summon Elemental, so I think that it makes too much sense to just stay with it. However, we have axed the second feature, and we are going with something different, and this is going to be called Storm Surge. So basically, this is going to be entering a state where you are calling upon storms around you, and you go into this stormy state where, like, lightning and clouds and that kind of thing are kind of going around you, which is pretty cool. Originally, I had this as kind of an aura feature where you had like difficult terrain around you and that kind of thing. I ended up going away from that option just because I ended up thinking that I wanted to maintain some of what made this unique in the beginning, and then go with making that actually worth using. So yeah, that's what we ended up doing. So basically you activate this as a bonus action and it lasts for a minute, and you can do it a number of times per day equal to your proficiency bonus, or you can spend 2 sorcery points to do it again if you run out of those, which I think is fine. I think that that's more than enough times to use it in a day, and it does a few things. Number 1, you do not provoke opportunity attacks at all, so you can move around while you're in this state. Nothing's going to happen to you there. However, if you are hit by a melee attack, then you're going to deal lightning damage to the other creature, not half your sorcerer level, but equal to your sorcerer level. So this is basically grabbing the level 14 feature from before and putting it here at level 1 as a kind of retribution type of thing. Because, I mean, how broken is it to be able to deal damage back, right? you're dealing 1 damage at this point, and so it really doesn't scale all that great, to be honest with you. So it's not broken, and that just shows you at 14th level why that feature is bad, because at 14th level, we should be doing something a lot better than something that fits into level 1 and is still kind of disappointing. I even kept the strength saving throw on here, or you can push somebody back. I don't think that feature is all that strong, so it's a level 1 feature as far as I'm concerned. And then whenever you deal damage with a spell that does thunder and lightning damage, then you can add your charisma modifier to 1 damage roll of that spell. That helps a lot in making our spells a little bit more impactful. It lasts for a minute and you can use it a bunch of times per day. So I think that this is a much better way to start off, and I think it just makes this a lot more unique, and I think it makes it a lot more functional than what we had before. So that's just me. So again, let me know what you think down below on that. So 6th level rolls around and we get a couple of things. Storm Guide is staying the same. I don't think there's any reason to change the ribbon features. It's fine, it's whatever. However, Heart of the Storm has changed. And so basically this is going to still give us the resistance to thunder and lightning damage. However, it is also going to expand what happens during our storm surge. And I've talked about this in the past as far as what makes a good design for a subclass. And really the best way that you can go about this, the best way you can make a subclass work, is to come up with a basis that you give at 1st, 2nd, or 3rd level, depending on your class, and then whatever that 2nd tier is, depending on what class you are. Combine those 2 things, and that's your basis, right? And even have that 2nd one build on the 1st one. And then once you get to 3 and 4, they're just beefing up those earlier features even more. And that way it's cohesive. It's not just, oh, I grabbed this random thing from over here, and then now I can do this over here. It just doesn't make sense, and it makes it really disjointed. I think that this is a much better way to do things in taking a central feature, which is now Storm Surge, and then just making it better and better so that you really do feel a sense of progression rather than just a plateau of, oh, I can do 6 things that are equally valuable, rather than I can do 1 thing that gets better and better and better as I grow. So that's just me. That's my philosophy of making these. And if you think differently, again, let me know. But basically, yeah, we're going to get the resistance to lightning and thunder damage. And then we are going to do a few more things when we are in our Storm Surge state. Number 1, whenever we cast a spell that deals cold damage, we can also add our charisma modifier. So remember, we got Sleet Storm earlier. Blizzards are also storms as far as I am concerned, and so to me, I think that it is fine to include cold damage in those features. I don't think that there are that many spells out there that deal cold damage that I'm really all that worried about. You have plenty of these features that can be targeted at cold damage or a bunch of other kinds, but you know what? They can also target thunder and lightning. So it really is no more or less effective to just expand us to a 3rd damage type. So that's what we're going to do. It is going to increase our walking speed to by 15 feet when we are in this, where, back before we were only increasing it by 10 feet, but we got it at 3rd level. Now we're increasing it by 15 feet, but we're at 6th level. So I think it's a little better to hide that behind the 6th level feature so that you don't just take 1 level and then get a speed boost. I don't think that's a good way to do the subclass, so put it behind 6th level, so you have to really go deep into the subclass in order to get the bonus to your walking speed, and then we're good. And basically we can also choose to deal cold damage instead of lightning damage whenever we take that melee attack like what we took in that 1st level feature. So yeah, I think that's good. I think it just expands on what we're already doing, makes it a little bit better, and it makes us a lot more versatile, especially when it comes to the cold damage and adding that on there. That opens up a whole nother list of spells that we could possibly add on, especially since a lot of those are going to be evocation. We can grab those from other spell lists as well if we need to fill those in. 14th level is going to completely change because we're basically grabbing what was the 18th level feature and shifting it here with Wind Soul, but then powering it down just a little bit. So essentially, bonus action, you can give yourself a fly speed equal to your walking speed. Remember, we are increasing our walking speed with our Storm Surge ability. So that means that we're going to have an increased flying speed as well. And honestly, I think it's fine. I don't think it's a huge deal. And again, we can use this a number of times per day equal to proficiency bonus, and we can regain all uses on a long rest. Or you can also activate this on the same bonus action as you enter your Storm Surge, which is cool. You still expend on both sides as far as that goes. You still expend Wind Soul and Storm Surge. You don't just expend one. So if you use them all together, then you're out of both at the end of the day. But either way, that's fine. I don't think that I want to make this usable more times per day with sorcery points. I think that the proficiency bonus times is plenty, especially at 14th level, and you already can do something like that with another feature. So I don't want to make that feature uber expensive just to be able to do all of these things, and that's what it would turn into. So I think it would end up being a detriment if we went that route, so I'm not going to do that. And so then finally, 18th level, we stole that feature and moved it to 14th level, so we got to come up with something new, and we're going to call it Storm's Fury. And this is going to be similar starting out to what we had before, but again, we are expanding on the Storm Surge, and I think that's the way to do it. Again, we gain immunity to lightning and thunder damage, and we're going to get resistance to cold damage. Just makes sense. And again, these resistances and immunities have nothing to do with Storm Surge. They are just all the time. And then when we activate Storm Surge is when we get all the benefits. So that's something to keep in mind there. Walking speed is now increased from 15 to 25 feet. So now you have a walking speed of 55 feet, which is really cool. If you are a creature that started out at 30 feet, you might be one that started out a little bit faster. Maybe you're a wood elf, and then now you're at 60 feet, which is really cool. But again, I think adding the flying speed is great. I think it still all works out just fine. We then are going to make that kind of retribution attack a little bit better as well. So when we're hit with a melee attack, in addition to the damage that we've been dealing since level 1, we can now force that target to make a Constitution saving throw or be paralyzed for 1 minute. And then of course, at the end of its turns, it can try to make the save again. I understand that Constitution saving throws are one of the worst to target when it comes to monsters, but paralysis is also one of the worst conditions that a creature could be subjected to. And yeah, it basically makes you paladin or rogue food at that point. And so I want to make it a little bit tougher. It gives you all the more reason to have a really high charisma, which you should have had anyway. And hopefully the creature will fail this, which is really nice. So I think that's a really good addition onto that. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, Storm's Fury is a little bare, but I don't know. I don't feel like we need to add anything else. If anything, that would be where I would add the having difficult terrain around you if I was going to do something like that. But again, I don't think that I necessarily want to go that route. I don't know. I feel like things like that end up either not making a whole lot of sense in the world or end up hurting your friends in that as well. So I don't really want to create either of those situations. So for that reason, I'm kind of backing away from doing that flavor. But to me, this is a massive improvement, and I think it makes a huge difference in our effectiveness. We have access to more spells that deal lightning and thunder damage. We have access to a whole other type of damage that gets the bonuses that we were dealing with, which is great. We have an expanded spell list, so we have access to a ton more spells, and we can swap spells in and out, which is great. So to me, this is a massive improvement and makes this really up there. I still don't think it's quite up to the level of Aberrant Mind and Clockwork Soul, but I would say that it's right under it, which is pretty much where I would like to be when it comes to balancing. But let me know what you think down below. I am always interested in seeing your opinions. Next week, I believe we are covering the penultimate Sorcerer. I might be miscounting things, but I believe we have 2 left, and then we will be moving on from there, which is again exciting, sad, but also exciting. I do enjoy Sorcerer quite a bit, but next up is Warlock, which I know a lot of people really love that as well, and I'm also looking forward to it. So until next time, stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.